I'm meteorologist Chris Holcomb from the 11 Alive Storm Trackers. We continue to track Ian for you as the hurricane made landfall earlier today, just after 3 o'clock, with the eye wall, the center of the eye wall, crossing over this area here, the barrier islands just off or just near Fort Myers. Now, the center of the storm is inland, and we're seeing the system weaken a little bit, but it's still is classified as a Category 3. That's still a major hurricane, and it's over land right now. What happens when this moves over land, when it's over water, the warm water is its fuel source and what helps to kind of feed it and give it the energy. Now, that fuel source is cut off. It's not over water anymore, it's over land. So you can kind of see the eye wall or the center of circulation not quite as well defined as it was a little bit earlier. As it's over land, it's going to keep moving up toward the north and to the east. And still on the right-hand side of this, we are getting some tornado watches. Here's one right now. We're watching some of these bands that move in that have that potential to cause some rotation. That's south of Melbourne and just north of the West Palm Beach areas where we have this one watch that's in effect. That center part of that now is over Sebring, Florida. Now, this is the latest that just came in at 9 o'clock. It's been downgraded now to a Category 2. So it was a 4 when it came in with maximum winds at about 150 miles an hour. It was 155 off into the coast as it was moving closer to land, and then it went down to 150 at landfall. Now it's a Category 2 storm with max winds at 105 miles an hour, and it's moving to the north-northeast at about 8 miles an hour. So that's going to keep moving up toward the north and to the east. You see here as a tropical storm, we're thinking in Daytona Beach or just south of Daytona Beach by tomorrow afternoon. And once it goes out back over the water, out over the Atlantic, it's going to hold at about 65 mile an hour winds and then curve back up still with about 65 mile an hour winds closer to the Georgia and South Carolina coast. This is on Friday afternoon. That's why they have additional warnings on the Georgia and South Carolina coast, a tropical storm warning and also a hurricane watch in effect for those areas just in case this does get stronger over the water and becomes a hurricane again. Then the remnants move through South Carolina, and then it falls apart there into parts of North Carolina. And you can see where we are in relation to the storm. We remain on the west side of the track, which is really the better side to be on. We still expect some impacts here, but we don't think they're going to be that widespread. We're going to have some rain, we're going to have some breezes around, but it shouldn't really be an impactful weather event here. Now you can see what we're watching with the tropical storm watches and warnings. This is a tropical storm warning along the Georgia coast, and then the pink color there shows the hurricane watch that we have in effect as well there along the coastline. Also, we have a storm surge warning in effect as the system moves up toward the South Carolina and Georgia line. It's going to be spinning all of that water back in along the coast there, and that's where we can see some issues with some storm surge and flooding along the coast. So here's what we're watching with that storm surge potential. You can see the blues and yellows and a little bit of orange showing up in some spots here. Some places might be a little more susceptible to storm surge than others, but I think in general, we're talking 1 to 3 feet above the ground. There might be some spots that see some storm surge a little bit higher than 3 feet. So we're really fine-tuning what we think is going to happen here in the metro area. And you have to keep watching every day because these impacts are changing daily. And we're actually trending downward a little bit on the rain amounts. I'm still saying up to 2 inches in the metro area, but those 2 inches would be more on the east metro side. West Metro may not even see an inch. They may have a ½ inch or less there. Also, watching the winds very closely, about 10 to 20 mile an hour winds from Friday into early on Saturday. And again, over on the east side, that might be a little more gusty there. And then the severe weather threat is mainly going to be now into South Carolina. I'm not really as concerned about East Georgia. We still think that center of the track will go more into South Carolina. And then on the right-hand side of that is where more of those threats are going to be. So we continue to watch the models. The consensus of the models takes this out over land and then back in here near South Carolina. Some of the models are trying to send it even more over to the east, and if that happens, we would have less impacts. Then once it moves inland, that does look like spaghetti there. The model's just kind of going crazy there with what's going to happen with the remnants. We do think it's just going to fall apart. So stay with us. We're going to keep tracking. I'm going to show you the timeline of the winds and the rain and how that will impact Metro Atlanta coming up. Jeff's next with more news headlines.